Everything you are is what you kept looking at. Not once, but repeatedly, quietly, unnoticed. There is nothing accidental about this. The mind does not absorb the world evenly. It selects, prioritizes, returns again and again to certain signals. And in that return, it begins to sculpt familiarity. Familiarity becomes comfort, comfort becomes preference, preference becomes identity. Not because it was chosen in a single moment, but because it was visited enough times to feel like home. Attention is not passive, it is selection. A being cutting reality out of infinite noise. What it touches becomes foreground. What it leaves becomes invisible, even if it is still there. This is the quiet violence of perception, not destruction, exclusion. The world is always larger than what you are currently experiencing. But your attention is the gatekeeper that decides what is allowed to become real to you in this moment. And what is not selected does not disappear. It simply stops participating in your story. You don't get a life, you fund one with attention. Every thought is a transaction. Every fixation is investment. And like any economy, there is compounding. What you repeatedly invest in does not remain static. It grows density in your awareness. It takes up more space without asking permission. You begin to notice it more often, not because it increased in the world, but because it increased in you. The system learns fast. What you watch becomes what you expect. What you expect becomes what you notice. What you notice becomes what you become. Not magic, reinforcement. This is prediction learning itself through repetition. The brain is constantly updating models of what tends to happen next. And attention is the fuel that tells it what patterns matter enough to keep. Over time, expectation stops being a thought and becomes a filter, a quiet shaping force that precedes interpretation. You don't just see differently, you arrive differently into what you see. So be careful what you stare at when no one is watching. That is where your life is built. Because unattended attention is still active. It does not pause in absence of awareness. It simply continues reinforcing whatever it last touched deeply enough. The loops that define a life are rarely created in dramatic moments. They are created in the unnoticed returns. The repeated quiet re-engagements, the things you just end up thinking about again. Not indecisions, in drift, and drift is not absence of control. It is control distributed across small moments so subtle they rarely get named as choice. This is where a life is actually authored, not in declarations, but in the slow accumulation of what the mind keeps returning to when nothing is being asked of it.